After the tragic attack on Pearl Harbor, the next morning, there was this weird noise coming from where the USS West Virginia sank. At first, people thought it might be a loose piece of ship, maybe some metal banging against something. But that sound kept going, even at night. It got so creepy that the guards didn't want to be near it when it got dark. After some days, when more and more people were attracted, they figured out it wasn't just random noise. It was like someone trying to get their attention from inside the sunken ship. Someone was down there, deep within the ship, desperately signaling that they were alive. This is the story of 3 brave soldiers who, against all odds, survived for 16 days trapped inside the sunken battleship, USS West Virginia. They were held in an airtight room, and the supplies they had were diminishing day by day. So, what happened to them, and when were they brought to the surface? To know all about that, we have to go back to the day of the attack, December 7th, 1941. On December 7th, 1941, the Japanese executed a massive strike on the U.S. Navy at Pearl Harbor. That day saw a tragic loss of around 2,400 U.S. sailors and Marines. The USS West Virginia, during the assault, was docked next to the USS Tennessee as part of the renowned battleship Roe, accompanied by 6 other vessels. Additionally, the USS Vestral, a repair ship, was anchored close to the Arizona. During the attack, the USS West Virginia took the brunt of 2 bombs from the sky and was struck by around 6 torpedoes. After getting too much damage, the ship's officers gave the order for a setting condition Z. This naval procedure involved shutting all hatch compartments and intentionally flooding parts of the ship to prevent it from turning over and capsizing. However, that didn't save the battleship, and after burning fiercely for over a day, the ship finally sank, coming to rest 40 feet underwater in the harbor. Tragically, this event resulted in the death of 106 of its crew members. The day after the attack, as survivors started cleaning up, a mysterious noise came from the USS West Virginia. Initially, they brushed it off, thinking maybe it was just some loose equipment tapping against the ship. But when they paused and listened, it became clear that rhythmic sound, it was coming from the trapped men inside. When listening closely, it went like this: bang, bang, then a break. Again, bang, bang, followed by silence. The realization was heart-wrenching. These were men taking turns, signaling for help. Some sailors spoke about how their hearts sank during guard duty near the USS West Virginia. Hearing those trapped inside was haunting. And the worst part? They couldn't do anything. That was the moment when America had just been pulled into World War II, and the government had bigger fish to fry. On top of that, there wasn't the advanced gear we have today for deep-sea rescues. But amidst the chaos, a hero emerged. A Hawaiian native. He didn't wait for orders. Instead, he rallied his fellow naval yard workers, grabbed whatever tools they could find, and dived into the task, quite literally. Rescue teams brought with them an arsenal of equipment: blowtorches, pneumatic chipping guns, compressors, and more, all to pierce the ship's armored exterior. First up, they started using cutting torches, but that backfired quickly. Compartments beneath them ignited due to the cork insulation and the thick oil-based paint that coated the ship. It was like lighting a match near gasoline. So they switched strategies. Out came the chipping guns, armed with chisels, using air pressure to pound away at the ship's armor. Imagine trying to break down a metal door with just a hammer and chisel. That's what they were up against. And that's also in the depth of the ocean. While battleships usually had thick armor, around 16 inches on the sides, their bottoms were a bit thinner. Yet, it was still steel, which meant breaking through it with a hammer and chisel was no small feat. So these guys worked super hard, from when it was blazing hot during the day to super cold at night, trying to get through the ship's thick walls. All the while, the Arizona ship was still on fire inside, lighting up everything around them from time to time. To make things worse, there were AAA gun bullets caught in the fire and were firing randomly from inside the ship. So when the bullets started firing, they'd just lie flat against the ship, hoping nothing would hit them. So on the USS West Virginia, there was this tapping sound coming from inside the ship, right? And it kept going for over 2 weeks. The rescue team really tried to get to where the sound was coming from, but the ship was just too messed up. There was this time a diver almost lost his life. That scared them, you know? So, in the end, the rescue guys had to make a tough call. They decided it was just too risky and almost impossible to keep trying to get them out. You know, the divers realized that if they tried to rescue those guys by drilling through the ship, it could cause a blowout. That'd be super dangerous for any diver trying to help. And with the whole country just thrown into a war, there were bigger things to handle than these 3 trapped sailors. Imagine being those 3 young guys, right? Between them, they'd only been in service for 3 years. They probably didn't even know their situation was so grim. They had some emergency food, fresh water, flashlights, and even had a clock and a calendar. Every day, they'd make noise, trying to let the outside world know they were still there. And at the end of each day, they'd mark that calendar. They must have been thinking, can anyone up there even hear us? People did hear them, but with everything going on, it's like the top brass lumped them in with all the others who didn't make it. It was heartbreaking because they focused on helping those they could see rather than the ones trapped below. About 6 months after everything went down, they finally managed to lift the West Virginia from the water. Inside, they found loads of sailors who didn't make it. Most of them, out of the 106 who passed away on the USS West Virginia, had drowned because they had to close those hatches to stop the ship from sinking. But then, there's this one room, Pump Room A109. It was totally dry. Inside, they find these 3 guys. Ronald, who was just 18, Clifford at 20, and Buddy, aged 21. They were all huddled together. Around them, the room was a mess. Used flashlights, empty food cartons, and even an open lid to fresh water tanks. The part that really got everyone? There was this calendar and a clock. The calendar had a red X on each day, all the way up to December 23rd. It's like time had just stopped for them on that day. Man, when the crew saw that, even the toughest guys there couldn't hold back their tears. Later on, in the official report, they detailed everything. It read something like, found 3 guys in storeroom A111, all dressed in their navy blues. Looks like they'd been stationed in the pump room during the attack. They ate all the emergency rations and even tapped into the fresh water tanks. That calendar with the X's, it started on December 7th, 1941, and the last mark was on December 23rd. Just heartbreaking. And there's so much more heartbreak about Buddy Costin. When they got around to checking out his locker after they lifted the ship, they found this lady's wristwatch, all soaked from the water. Turns out, Buddy had planned to give it to his mom as a Christmas present. Can you imagine? His mom got that watch fixed up and wore it every single day till she passed away in 1985. It's like she was carrying a piece of him with her. Now about the burials. Initially, the 3 of them, along with 22 others, were all buried together. But in '49, when they opened up the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific, they decided to give each sailor their own burial. Clifford Olds, they sent him back to Stanton, North Dakota, his hometown. As for Costin and Endicott, they laid them to rest in Honolulu, in a place they often call the Punch Bowl. And here's a surprising fact. On each of their gravestones, the death date is marked as December 7th, 1941. But given everything they went through, that date just doesn't feel right. It's almost like a slap in the face, considering how hard these young guys fought to hang on. In the end, the story of these 3 young sailors stands out as a testament to human resilience. Their fight to survive, even when faced with the harshest of circumstances, reminds us of the spirit that endures within us all. Here's to Clifford, Buddy, and Ronald. Their legacy lives on, not just in the pages of history, but in the hearts of all who hear their tale. And with that, today's story comes to an end. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. See you in the next video. Until then, cheers.